Yeah. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first virtual event of the summer. We are so excited to have you all. Um, my name is Lauren Ping. I graduated Branham High School in 2019, and I currently go to Georgetown University, where I'm a junior, and I'm majoring in women and gender studies.
And hi guys, I am your co-host today with Lauren. I'm Xiaomian, and I graduated from Branham last year in 2020, and I'm currently going to Stanford, intending to major in material science and engineering, but I have no idea. We are the Branham Alumni Network, and so this panel, we just want to introduce some crazily amazing alums from Branham, and we hope you enjoy our panel. And so for now, I'll just go through what our panel would look like, and then we will go on to moderated questions, where we hope that the questions we generated for you are going to be helpful for you to learn about what the panelists have done throughout their high school. And then you will have the chance to ask questions. So if you have any questions through our panel, just feel free to message me or just send it in the chat, and we will just ask that after we finish with our moderated questions. And I just want to reiterate, our panelists are super welcome to questions, so do not be timid or intimidated by them. Just ask your questions, and we hope that this can be as helpful to you as possible.
Yeah, and before we get started, we just wanted to define what extracurriculars are. Oftentimes we think of extracurriculars as like clubs or organizations, but extracurriculars are just anything outside of academics and also includes like community service, having a job, doing pre-collegiate programs. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different things that qualify as an extracurricular. And extracurriculars are really important to the college applications process because they demonstrate they demonstrate who you are as a person, some of your personal skills like communication, leadership, organization, things like that. They can also help you to develop your passion in certain areas, which can lead you to certain majors or fields of study, or even certain career paths. And also through extracurriculars, you can sometimes win awards and accomplishments, which can also help you to stand out in the college applications process. So yeah, that's why we're doing this panel today.
Yeah, and before we get started, I just want to give you some general reminders. So the purpose of our panel is just to share what our alums have done and all the amazing experiences you can have in high school. However, there are definitely a lot more different ways in which you can approach extracurriculars in a successful way defined by you, because success is individual to each person. And so basically, you do not have to copy what they did. And instead, we hope that throughout this panel, you can focus on the thought process and the mindsets our panelists had when they made their extracurricular activities more meaningful. And we hope that this will be inspiring for you to take up new and exciting new challenges. So yeah, without further ado, Laura, would you like to introduce the panelists?
Yeah, so I think we're going to start with Bianna. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Vianna. I use she, her pronouns. I graduated from Branham in 2017, and I just graduated from Stanford this past June with a BA in human biology and a minor in human rights. A little bit of background, in high school, I was really focused on clubs. So I did Spare Club, I did Interact Club, and I did NHS. And then I was also in marching band for a bit. And since I was pre-med, I did a little bit of research at Stanford over the summers. I did like 1 or 2 science fairs. They weren't that big. All right.
And next we'll go to Clarabelle.
Hey everybody, my name is Clarabelle. I graduated from Branham in 2019 with Lauren. I'm currently a rising junior at VMI with a Navy contract. In high school, I did nothing related military, but I was involved in ASB and NHS, and everything I did was focused around leadership and service. So I did a lot of community service with the city of San Jose and the school district.
And you also did sports too, right, Clarabelle?
Oh yeah, like soccer, like the soccer was my life, so. could I forget? Thank you, Lauren. But yes, soccer and hockey. Sports are a big part of my life.
And we can go to Tarang.
Hey guys, I'm Tarang, just graduated from Brandon class of 2021. I'm going to be heading off to MIT in the fall, most likely to major in computer science. In high school, I also did a lot of clubs. I was involved in robotics, Girls Who Code, CSF, and math club. And outside of that, I did badminton for 2 years, a lot of random pre-collegiate summer programs, and I did some volunteering.
And last but not least, Tommy.
All right, what's up, everyone? My name is Tommy. I graduated from Branham last year, or like a month ago, and I'm going to Johns Hopkins next fall. I'm going to study neuroscience on the pre-med track, and if I want to sacrifice my sleep and social life, I'll do a double major in public health. And in high school, I was a Boy Scout for 6-7 years. I was Eagle Scout and played a lot of badminton at club and varsity level. I didn't do that much, but I was a captain. That matters. I did quite a lot of clubs. I led the Bruin, badminton club, biotech, and kind of NHS. What else I did? I did a lot of volunteering, hospital, hospice, tutoring, Children's Discovery Museum. That's a lot of fun. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who introduced yourself. So now we just want to go to our moderator questions. Again, just a reminder, feel free to send me any questions that you have through the chat. So our first question is just, how were you able to find your extracurricular opportunities in high school? Yes, so a list of maybe resources is great. And yeah, just jump in.
I can start us off. So basically, what I did was for Brandon Extracurriculars, I went to Club Rush, listened to announcements, joined way too many of them, and then just picked the ones I liked and stuck with those. And outside of that, I just kind of talked to adults in my life as well as a lot of friends and saw what they were doing and if they knew anything cool I could do and just tried out stuff from there.
I can jump in about extracurriculars outside of Branham. So for pre-med stuff back in high school when I was pre-med, I did a lot of these Stanford programs. If you just look up like high school summer programs, then a whole list will pop up. I did this like small, maybe like 4-session one that let you like work with cadavers, was really cool. And then I did this other one called SIMMER, is the Stanford Institutes of Medical Research, something like that. And that's like a whole summer of research that you get a one-on-one mentor. That one was a really great experience. And you could find many of those at other colleges as well. So if you go on their website, they often have some high school programs. So if you like a certain college, you want to check it out, I would recommend definitely looking on their website.
Yeah, I just Googling stuff. I think Tarang said this somewhere, where you just like look up high school, whatever research or STEM experiences, you get a whole bunch locally, and you can always like go to faraway programs. I know like almost all the more prestigious universities, well, actually any university will offer like summer programs for high school students, and they're quite valuable, especially like the residential ones. You get to kind of see what college experience is like at a particular college.
Kind of adding on to that, something that no one's ever mentioned is like, when I was like going into my junior year at Branham, I just asked Miss Lawton, I'm like, look, are there any leadership opportunities in the school district that I want to do? And she's like, yeah, like we're always looking for students, but they don't really advertise it. So that's when I joined the local control and accountability plan, which is basically allocating funds for the school district. And I got to be like the only student rep on that board. And it was just fun because I got to decide where money goes. But yeah, just asking your teachers. And Miss Lawton, I know she's the principal, she's intimidating sometimes, but you know, she's a great help and she's willing to help you and accomplish your goals. And she knows the opportunities that are available, and take them, ask her. Don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, real quick, similar to that, if you're looking for kind of student rep opportunities, looking at the San Jose City government, city council, there's a lot of volunteer things there if you're really interested in community service or kind of pre-government, pre-law type.
Yeah, I did the youth commission and I was a youth commissioner, and we worked a lot on city planning and bylaws, and it was a lot of reading. But if you're into law, definitely look into it, because you present to the city council and you're like a liaison for the youth. So it's a good opportunity to get some volunteering hours in there and get political exposure. So I made a lot of political connections through that. So if you want to do something in that area, definitely do it.
Awesome. Well, if no one has anything else to say, I'll go on to the next question. But yeah, if any students have questions about that particular question or want more information, DM Shamian. For the next question, since extracurriculars are such an important part of the college applications process, we would love it if panelists could share a memorable extracurricular experience that they wrote about in their college essays. And in particular, we would love it if you could focus on what made that extracurricular experience really meaningful and how it cultivated your personal growth.
I guess I'll start with this one. So in my college app to like every military academy, they're really looking for leadership. So I wrote about how I lost the ASB president election. I worked my butt off for that, and I kind of just, it wasn't the most challenging experience I've had in an extracurricular, but I think in that essay I kind of demonstrated resilience and grit, because after that I said, you know what, I want to play a major part in everyone's high school experience. So then I applied for that student board member position for the district, and then I got to preside over all the ASB presidents in the district. So I mean, I won in the end, but I mean, that was something that I wrote in my college essay. I know everyone's like, oh, I have to have a sob story to write about. You don't have to. You just need to write about something that demonstrates a change in character or demonstrates your character. And I think that really got me looked at a few times instead of just like writing about some random story. Another thing was when I worked for the youth commission, there was this woman that came up to me, and she worked for like the foster care. And it was just really sad because this is kind of like a random story. I'm just going to cut this real short, but she was telling me how she's trying to do everything she can to get kids in the foster system and get adopted. And a lot of kids can't. I wrote a little blurb about that, how there's like so much things that need to be done and people need help with, but I felt sick because I couldn't help them. I didn't have enough power or enough influence to help them. So, I mean, when you go into these leadership positions and you get involved with certain things, you have to realize that you can't say yes to everybody, and you can only help to a certain extent. So when you look for opportunities in like the district or like the city, you have to take that into consideration because it gets hard sometimes.
No one wants to follow that up. That's a hard one to follow. But yeah, I guess for me, I wrote my Common App essay about marching band actually. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with marching band, but basically there's this leader person called a drum major, and I was the very first freshman to try out. Like in the past, all the drum majors had been seniors, and I was the very first one to actually try. And I got a lot of hate for that. People were like, you have only been in the marching band for 1 year. What are you going to try to teach us? And so I remember that was really hard to try to just focus on myself, really focus on doing what I can control and slowly winning people over. Because in the beginning, like there were very few people who were fans, right? But at the end, I did win like the popular vote. I got like the highest score for conducting because I had like practiced a lot. And eventually I did get the position. So I talked a lot about how my hard work and just focusing on myself and being able to achieve a goal were values that I learned throughout that process and have grown throughout the years as I'm now in my senior year as a drum major. It's been like 3 years of drum majoring. But yeah, that's what I wrote about.
So I wrote my personal statement on robotics, and so that was the one essay that went to literally every single college I applied to, and I chose to write about robotics because I've been in it all 4 years of high school, and I put a lot of time into it, and it also I feel like I got a lot out of it. So my narrative, I basically centered around how at the beginning as a freshman, I was very shy and I was a little bit afraid to bring up my own ideas. And then I talked about our first failure during a competition and how that kind of lit a fire under me. Um, and then throughout the essay, what I basically wrote about was me learning to speak up and also step up as a leader at the same time as like learning more technical aspects. And I think I wrote about that because I wanted to demonstrate both sides of me of like being able to talk to other people and lead, but also like wanting to get really in depth into engineering. And so I think that just demonstrated everything about me, which is why I chose it.
I'll give a bit of a curveball here, but I wrote one of my extracurricular. Okay, I wrote in my comment app as like one part of it, but I wrote about journaling as one of the kind of like a transition. It's not like a big achievement or anything, but I've been journaling every day for 4 or 5 years now, and I feel like it's a big part of my life that I can't really demonstrate elsewhere. And I wanted to give that little like facet of my life because I think it shows a different side of me that doesn't really get reflected on like a STEM applicant's typical, profile of like, I don't know, volunteering and whatever STEM competition, which I didn't even have. But I think it's somewhat unique than writing about a volunteer or leadership experience. So that's why I chose it, and yeah, I think it reflects a different part of me that I don't demonstrate elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good point, Tommy. Definitely on college apps, sometimes there isn't space to talk about, or sometimes when you're listing your activities, other facets of your personality aren't demonstrated. So those extracurricular essays are a good place to talk about that.
Yeah, and I also just want to mention one thing that I noticed a commonality between all four panelists' answer to this question is that it was something memorable to them and that they grew a lot from it. It doesn't have to be specifically oriented towards what you end up wanting to do in college, like Tommy with journalism or Vianna with drum major. She's not doing music in college either. So it's just something that you really feel memorable about, and that is what an extracurricular activity should end up being, something that you end up having some personal growth, you became a leader, or you went through some challenges and you ended up learning a lot from it. And with what Clarabelle said, like learning that a leader can't do everything for every person is a very hard lesson. And it's definitely a lesson that she must have learned as a leader right now in her naval academy or military academy. And yeah, so moving on to our next question. So this one is oriented around time management. So we just want to ask, how did you manage your time with academics, extracurricular activities, maybe work and family duties? And oftentimes when we're thinking about becoming an upperclassman in high school, we have to let go of some extracurriculars. Can you also maybe talk about how you ended up selecting which extracurriculars you stuck to all through high school and how you let go of some of them, because we know it's a really hard process to let go of activities that you've been doing.
Man, no one wants to talk about time management. I'll go first. When I started high school as a freshman, I was one of those like, man, I got to do everything. I need to stand out to colleges freshman. And I was also really into a lot of stuff. So I ended up joining like art club, quiz bowl, a ton of other extracurriculars. And I wanted to do it all, but like everyone else, I figured out that I'm not a superhuman and I need to sleep and I need to scale back on what the things I want to do. And one of the big things that helped me scale back was that it's not just not fair to me to try to do everything because then I can't get something good out of select things, but it's also not fair to everyone else if you commit to doing something and then you can't put in as much as you committed because you're trying to juggle too many other things. And that helped me kind of learn to figure out which things I was okay with letting go and which things I wanted to keep on doing. And as per time management, I think one of the things that really helped me out was both understanding that I need to take care of myself as a person and of my mental health and kind of do extracurriculars, but also take the time to spend time with family when like I get tired and I want to do something else. And then just keeping like kind of a time journal, either writing in a physical notebook that I actually still use or using Google Calendar or something like that, just to make sure you don't forget anything.
Yes, Google Calendar, use it. That's my one advice on time management. The rest you have to figure out for yourself, because you have to develop your own system to see what works for you. There's no like one panacea for treating procrastination, and we all suffer from it. So in terms of what to give up, like Tarang, I also joined quite a lot of clubs, and you just have to pick out where you're good at and where you can excel in. Like I joined speech and debate in freshman year, and I went to like a practice with Alexander Goldberg. I got destroyed. Like I couldn't even speak to him, and then I quit after that. Maybe I should have stuck to it and like see what made out of it, but it just wasn't my strong suit. And you have to give up certain things and to focus on others. Like one hard decision I had to make was to quit club badminton at the beginning of junior year because I was just running out of time on it. And it wasn't only like a time commitment. It's like after I practice like 10 hours a week, it just destroys my energy. I wouldn't have time for other AP classes and volunteering and things like that. So sometimes you have to give up some things that you love and make space for other things.
Yeah, one thing I'll add is you don't have to give 100% of yourself to everything. You can choose a couple activities, but maybe you care about one class more than the other, so you can dedicate more time to that class, and maybe a little less time this week versus something. I highly recommend Google Calendar, a great tool. I put everything out so you don't double book anything. You can also set aside time on the calendar for yourself. It is important to remember to take breaks. Like seriously, don't burn out. It is not a fun experience. So would not recommend. In order to not burn out, yes, drop some activities. Sophomore year, I added track and field because people were telling me you got to do a sport to get into like Stanford or whatever. And then I did track and field. I did not like it. I like sprained my ankle. It was not a good time. So I quit the next year. And I actually focused on activities I did like, because even if you're spending like 20 hours on an activity, if you enjoy it, it won't feel like 20 hours. And plus, if you're doing that activity, you should also be gaining something from that too, right? Learning something from that activity. So that's a two-way street. And what's more, if you do it with some friends that you really like, you can ask them to go volunteer somewhere, then it's also kind of like a hangout as well. So just finding how to juggle, how to give, you have a pie and you give a slice of your pie to every activity you have. You don't have unlimited slices. So try to figure out how many of your pie do you want to give away to each activity.
Yeah. I know some of the panelists touched on mental health in the last question, but I'd love if you could elaborate maybe more on how extracurriculars impacted your mental health, or providing like a tip for high school students to maintain a good personal well-being.
I got that one. So senior year, I basically did everything. I did sports. I was working for the city. I was working for the school district. I was an ASB, NHS president, like you name it, I was doing it. Journalism, everything. And I burned out, and it got to a point where I had depression, and I sacrificed 0 and first period for sleep. And that's when like, 1, I didn't have my priorities straight, and 2, like school has to come first always. So that's when I had to like really reevaluate, what I was doing and where I wanted to go. I talked to a few adults I could trust. I'm like, hey, I can't say no. When people ask me, hey, you want to do this? I say, hell yeah. And I try to do it the best of my ability. And I burn out really bad in senior year. But that's really when you need to reevaluate your situation and yourself, and you have to take things off the plate. So I took off club soccer. That was really hard for me because I played soccer like 15, 16 years of my life. But I got to a point where I'm like, look, am I trying to be a professional soccer player? Am I trying to play soccer in college? No. Am I trying to be a leader in my future? Am I trying to be a military officer? Yes. So I'm gonna, stick with ASB. I'm gonna stick with the city position. I'm not gonna tell my coach, hey, I have to miss practice again. I'm just gonna say, hey, coach, I appreciate your time and effort. I'm not gonna play soccer anymore. And that was a really hard decision. I had to consult my parents for it. But if you don't have those type of parents to talk to like that, definitely talk to a teacher that you trust, or the counselors at school, or just a friend, because I feel like sometimes your friends know you better than you know yourself. And they know, where you want to go most of the time. So consult your friends, and don't forget to reach out to those mental health resources that you have at school or online, that are free and available to you. But yeah, don't let yourself get to that point where you're missing like first and zero period to like get some sleep, because I made the mistake of like calculating the hours I should be sleeping to studying. I'm like, oh, I still have 8 hours until 6 a.m. I can study for this test. No, don't let your GPA slip, because it's not worth it.
I want to say that like a lot of times when I'm doing extracurricular, it feels a lot different than grinding out like AP Chem homework. Because I'm not sure if Clarabelle can relate to this, but sometimes after I finish like like a whole day of schoolwork, I'll go to practice and it'll feel like a whole different. It's very refreshing, and I'll feel better after I do like 2 hours of badminton as compared to before. It's like a different kind of stress. Like you use up your brain in the first 8 hours of the day, and then you kind of abuse your body for another 2, and afterwards you feel great. Like you're gonna be tired, but it's a different type of stress on your body, and I think that it's important that you can kind of refresh and relieve yourself through your extracurriculars instead of just treating it as a burden on yourself. But yeah, sometimes I do get tired, like hospital volunteering. It's just not fun sometimes.
Yeah, sports are great because you can win. So
Yeah, also
definitely love sports. But working out helped. Working out helped a lot. Just releasing that stress. I know a lot of people don't like working out, but if you do it in private, like sometimes pushing out a few push-ups, it releases stress and tension. Yeah.
I think kind of to that end, you have to find a healthy way of letting out your stress and kind of anything else that you might be dealing with. Like it might be working out, it might be completely something else. Like for me, it was art, either just like scribbling on the side of my notes or actually procrastinating on my homework and doing an art piece, which not something you should be doing, but you need to find ways to work something in that does help you. And I think also to that end, mental health and extracurriculars, I know that people can get competitive, and you can kind of look at what everyone else is doing at times and be like, oh my God, everyone else is doing so much more than me, and like kind of stress out that way. And I think to that end, you just need to remember that everyone is on their own path and no one really knows what can like get you into college if that's your goal, or anything to that end, to just focus on yourself and be the best you can be and let everyone else do what they're doing.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest concept was obviously time. Time was a finite resource. And in high school, I argued with myself a lot about, why would I spend an hour doing like a meditation or something when I could be spending an hour volunteering? And eventually it got very toxic. And at the end of the day, you can't give to other things, your own cup isn't full. So you need to take care of yourself first. Something one of my professors in college told me was that, if you take an hour once a week to go to therapy instead of wasting a whole day because you're not taking care of yourself, you don't feel like yourself, then that hour is worth it, right? I know a lot of the time for me, I didn't start therapy until college, and I wish I'd started earlier, but I was always like, time, I should be doing this and that. But if you take that hour, once a week, then you can build up these skills for yourself. You can make sure that you know what to focus on, you know what to prioritize, if you let it become a problem, it's very hard to dig yourself out of it, right? So if you have a trusted adult, talk to them. If you have some friends, talk to them. If you don't have people you feel like you're able to talk to, hopefully you have my email, or you can contact me after. I'm happy to, walk you through the steps or resources if you'd like. But yeah, it's very important to take care of yourself, because, maybe you're working so hard to get into this college that you want to get into, but if you get there and you're not able to enjoy it, then what was the point, right?
Yeah, thank you so much for you guys sharing that. I'm sure in high school, we're so adamant about focusing about what we can accomplish, and in some way just forget about our health, which turns out to be very important. I remember like Miss Theo from the physics department, she gave us an analogy. She said, if your entire life is on a scale of 1,000, 1000, that one is your health. Because if you remove that one, everything becomes zero. But if you had that one, even if you remove the zeros after it, you still had 100, you still have 10, you still have something. So yeah, thank you guys for sharing that. And our final moderated question, which is actually something that one of our students is also touching up upon, is, so when we talk about extracurriculars, sometimes we think about leadership, doing something new, or going to competitions. And for most people like me, when I encounter these experiences, I'm a little bit scared. I don't know how to approach them. So can you maybe elaborate on some challenges that you face when you're pursuing these leadership positions, competitive opportunities, or just starting something new? And how did you overcome that challenge and actually make something out of it?
Okay, I got it. So, like I said, I did nothing military related in high school. I didn't do ROTC. I'm first generation military. None of my parents went, no, both of my parents were in the military. I'm first gen American, like I'm an immigrant. My mom's Vietnamese, fresh off the boat. So it was kind of like a strange thing for me to research. I kind of got, I wouldn't say hate, but a little backlash from my family, like, what? Why don't you want to be a doctor or a lawyer? Why do you want to go in the military? So when I was researching like colleges, and I, found the military academies and found the military institute, I was like, wow, this is something I want to do, because I can pursue a version of myself that I really want to be. And that's a leader who's a servant leader, and really makes an impact on those around and below and beside in the world, essentially. So when I applied to the Naval Academy summer session and I looked around, I was kind of like the only girl. And I kind of expected that in the military, but I didn't realize I'd be kind of looked at differently. And I'm sure people and females in the STEM field can relate to this. It's just kind of like, I wish there was more people that looked like me, but you kind of have to change your mindset and think like, hey, I'm doing this so that, the younger girl, the girls that are younger could say, hey, she did it, I can do it too. So you kind of have like a positive mindset when you're trying to figure out what you want to do. And if you're going into it and you realize that you're kind of like an outlier or a black sheep. And then now I take that into college, and my school's like 80% white male. I am one of the only girls from California. I'm one of the only girls. There's only like a few girls in my company. I'm like the only Asian girl at my school, like one of them. But like, you kind of don't look at that. When you're going into these fields where you're the only person who's of color, or you're the only person of this gender, you kind of think about more what brings you guys together. And for me, that was that shared idea of wanting to be a leader and wanting to be in the military, and that kind of unites the group together. That's a challenge that I still am trying to figure out right now as I continue my cadetship at VMI, and I'm sure that's something I'm going to have to endure as a military officer, being probably the only woman on my ship, or like in my squadron if I fly. But I mean, and just have a positive outlook on things. And if you're the first, don't look at it as, oh, I'm the first, like this is gonna suck, no one can relate to my experience. Think like, hey, I'm the first, I have this opportunity to pave the path for other people, and realize that, I mean, you have a lot of pressure, because if you mess up, like other people see it, but don't be afraid to mess up. Just grow from your problems and take it as an opportunity to set the standard and set the standard high.
That's a hard one to follow up, Clarabelle. You did a great job stating that. I'm going to talk about something slightly different, which is me personally having like issues being confident in what I was doing and kind of recognizing that like I was competent in the field that I was trying to go into. And I think one of the things that really helped me out was a piece of advice that one of my teachers gave me. And she looked at me and she's like, you know, you're not the only person feeling like this. Everyone is human, and and everyone has different ways of like hiding if they're not feeling confident or don't think that something's going to work out, and you might not notice it because you're focused on yourself and your own feelings of self-doubt. But everyone's going through it, and just you gotta remember that you can also fight through it just like you see everyone else is doing. That kind of helped me being able to step up as a leader. So basically what this is referring to is me co-founding a club in my sophomore year of high school, and it kind of falling apart and not having a lot of members. And I was afraid and didn't really want to keep going on it. But my teacher stepped in and told me to keep trying because it's okay if you fail, because you can't really go down and you'll learn something from it in the end, which is good. So my two pieces of advice from that is try things out and don't worry about messing up, because you're in high school, everyone's learning, and you know, it's only going to help you out in the end. And also find a role model that you can look up to or ask for advice from, because people who have, you know, been around for a little bit longer than you have, it might not feel like they know more, but they definitely do know more, and they can give you a lot of advice that's helpful to you.
Is there anything else you want to add on, or should we move on to the next question? All right. Yeah, thank you, Tarang, Clarabelle. Those are definitely experiences that I have gone through in order to feel more confident, including this Brandon Alumni Network. Laura and I kind of just starting this, and we're trying really hard to reach out to students, and it's really hard, but I'm sure like, yeah, I mean, we're in college, so there's still like a lot of stuff we could be doing. So yeah, anyways, so now we're moving on to Q&A. So one student asked, what sort of extracurricular activities can students do besides clubs at Branham when they're going to their upperclassmen year? So for example, being a junior. So yeah, I assume that this question is more oriented towards what students are interested in. So I know that on our panel, we have students who are more focused upon like humanities and also STEM. So if you can maybe talk about maybe things you did outside of clubs in Branham that's related to your maybe interests, that would be great.
So Vianna kind of already touched on this, but down in City Hall, there's a lot of opportunities for like upperclassmen in their high school. Like I did, I was a youth commissioner, and that's basically between your junior and senior year. If you want to be civically engaged, if you're interested in policy, definitely research the youth commission. And there's like other commissions you can join too. There's like there's like the old people commission, there's like parks, there's transpo commission, like literally you can get involved. I'm pretty sure there's no age limit. As long as you're a citizen of the city of San Jose, you can be involved. And if you don't really want to be involved at level, if you don't like public speaking, they have like little ad hoc groups that meet up on the 9th floor in City Hall. And basically you look at policy and research, and then you recommend as a team to the city council. And it's just a really good experience, not only to like build your vocabulary in terms of like law stuff or like civic stuff, but I mean, it's a good opportunity to network and like see and meet kids your age that are interested in that as well.
I can jump in. So for music, I did some music extracurriculars. I think there's like the county honor band. You can do state honor band as well. In terms of like leadership opportunities for like drum major at camps, like if you performed well, they selected you to go to like the London New Year's parade. So I did that as well. For like STEM stuff, yeah, so I did that little research program. That helped a lot because I actually came back to that same lab the next summer and then I actually worked for them my first year in college. So if you don't even have to be in an official program if you're interested in research, and there's lots of different types of research, not just them. You can go look at some departments at a close by college, university, and ask them if you'd be able to help out or just learn, and then you could work with them for that. I think another thing I did a lot was volunteering outside of Branham. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities out there. You can even volunteer like at a company or something that's kind of related to your field. That way you could gain some experience there and then use that experience to actually get a job in like your junior or senior year in high school. So those were a couple things that I did.
And I sort of wanted to follow up that question. Is it too late to start doing something new as a junior in high school?
I definitely don't think so, because I started doing a lot of my volunteering in starting my junior year, both at hospital and I do a hospice volunteering. Maybe I sort of more pertain to my major, but you can definitely start, research programs and join summer whatever session and programs at different universities. I think during those times you definitely have a bigger knowledge base than you were before to pursue these academic endeavors, and I think there's nothing wrong with, or there's nothing such as like starting late.
Yeah, thank you. Lauren, is it okay if I keep on asking Q&A questions? Getting a lot more. Yeah, so we have a student who is wondering, is it all right to do controversial extracurriculars? So for example, social justice activism, or perhaps activities that people have diverse thoughts upon. And if you have done like something like social activism, can you talk about your experience?
Yeah, I did a lot in college, but I wish I had done it more in high school. It's definitely okay to do something that maybe not a lot of other people do. So I was actually student body president at Stanford last year, and a lot of what we did was going against the university. Ironically, we did a lot of like activism for survivors. We did a lot of activism for mental health. We wrote a couple letters to the DHS for international students. So thinking about what causes you like, maybe looking up certain groups in the area for that cause and then going for it. It doesn't matter really what cause you're advocating for, as long as you're passionate about it. So colleges don't care if you're like, ooh, like what if you're a liberal, like, ooh, what if you're a conservative, whatever you're passionate about, just pursue that and make sure you just learn something from it as well. Like, don't do it just because it's popular, because other people are doing it.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that. So actually, I see Vianna's emails like all the time because she's our president. I mean, ASSU president, yeah. And definitely there's oftentimes like she has to go against the university, and it gets really spicy sometimes for me as an outsider looking at everything. So yeah, I guess well, if you are interested in those kind of issues, they're definitely hotly debated issues in universities, in real life after you graduate. So if you want to gain experience in those kind of situations as a high school student, I think it would be really helpful if you end up doing something like that in university. So just think about that. Yeah. And the next question from our students is, so the past few years has been COVID-19. And so next year, students are going to be getting back to school, like for the first time, almost in like 2 years, and it feels really weird. And so they're wondering what might be some activities or ways in getting involved. You know, like some juniors, they have been going through their first 2 years during COVID. They're wondering about what they can do and maybe some advice on getting back on campus after COVID and what they can accomplish in the following year before college apps.
I'm assuming ASB will host Club Rush in the fall, so definitely go to that. I'm not sure about what it's going to look like, but I'm sure all the clubs are still available at Branham. I'm sure sports are getting back and started. If you're interested in any sports, go ahead and contact the coach or whoever the team captain is. Just don't be afraid to communicate, because that's how you get your information. It's, who you know and what you know. So don't be afraid to hit the ground running, and you're going to do great. Don't worry. Don't worry. Everyone went through COVID. We're all coming back. Everyone's a little, nervous and kind of, we're still a little bit freaked out about this whole COVID situation. All of us are, high school or not. But I mean, if you want to get involved, just ask questions and ask around, and you'll get the information you need.
Just wanted to put a quick word of advice out there from someone who has struggled through a whole year of extracurriculars through COVID. If you tried out any clubs or any extracurriculars during COVID and absolutely hated them, give them another shot, because a lot of things are very, very different in person than they were online, and you might end up liking them a lot more. You might end up hating them more, and either way, it's okay. Just make sure to try it out again before you give up on it.
There's a follow-up Q&A question to that too. So for people who were in high school during COVID, were their extracurriculars really affected by the pandemic? And if they were, how did they handle it during the admission process? So Tommy and Tarang, you guys have gone through the COVID-19 admission process. Can you maybe share about your experience?
Yeah, definitely a lot of things got canceled for us. Well, one big one was like sports. We weren't able to compete in anything, and then school clubs were largely canceled, where a lot of clubs couldn't really continue. But I think it's great that it would be great if you can show your own initiative and show what you did to kind of transform your experiences in extracurricular. One project that worked on a lot was to do Bruin to Bruin and to kind of redirect the club into an online fashion during the entire lockdown and quarantine. And we expanded a lot of online tutoring, and that's one of the things I also wrote about in my college apps. And I think colleges would like to see how you did your own thing, even though the circumstances were not in your favor.
Yeah, Tommy actually did a really good job with Bruin to Bruin. I think what that goes to show, and it's kind of the same thing for my extracurriculars, is that it's not what you get thrown at you as much as what you do with what happens. Colleges aren't going to dock you for not having opportunities to be able to go to, or like not having the classes you want to take around you or something like that. You just have to be creative and find another way to do something that shows your initiative. Like find if, for example, a club got canceled due to COVID, or you couldn't do what you usually do, find another way to keep that community together or some other fun thing to do. Basically, so for the college application process during COVID, they had a separate text box where they asked us to describe how our circumstances had changed during COVID or anything related to that. And so for that, what I put down everything that kind of went wrong and couldn't happen. I was supposed to go to nationals for robotics that year, which was the only year we made it, and then it got canceled, which is a disappointment. But what I put down along with that was what I had done to kind of turn that downward streak around and make something else fun for myself. Like I started doing workshops for robotics to kind of pass on all the knowledge from the seniors that the other underclassmen couldn't get because we weren't actually building in person and things like that. Just like find something to do that will show that haven't given up, I think is the biggest thing.
Thank you for sharing your experiences. Our next question is, how much does it matter if you switch extracurriculars? So when you're switching as a freshman in high school, it's like, okay, because you're still exploring. Maybe if you're switching extracurriculars as a sophomore or junior, it's a little bit later in the game. Do you have any experience on that? And do you think it's okay to do that?
Yeah, I can jump in here. So I don't think I've actually switched extracurriculars, but I can give kind of my perspective. I think it's okay to switch it if you have a good reason for it. Like, do you not enjoy your previous one? Do you think you'll have enough time to make an impact in the new one? As long as you're able to learn something from your new extracurricular in time for like the applications, then I think you'll be okay.
It doesn't matter. If you don't want to do it anymore, don't do it. It's not worth your time. If it doesn't make you happy, don't do it. Do something that makes you happy. In the end, high school, it matters a lot when you're trying to apply for a college, but honestly, in the long run, if you don't want to do it anymore, just don't do it. Like, you know,
remember
what's
one
that?
thing.
What's that next flex show where the it's like that Asian lady and she's like cleaning everyone's houses? Like, does this
Oh, if it doesn't
happy?
spark
If
joy.
it doesn't make you happy, toss it. So it doesn't matter. I promise you, it does not matter.
Yeah,
I
I
know
did karate for
Yeah.
2 years because I thought having a black belt would matter. I hated it so much. I like quit. I didn't even put it on my application. So I like wasted 2 years of my life. So just drop it.
Yeah, if you don't like it, don't do it. It's okay. Colleges like to see that you explore and you're trying to figure out yourself, right? So if you tried this, that's okay. As long as you tried it, you're good. So don't worry about it. You got it.
Just a caveat on that. Sorry to like drown all the happiness here. Remember that it's not just like you're just like fearing the challenge of doing something new that's like stopping you from approaching an extracurricular, and it's actually that you just don't enjoy doing it. But if it's something that you feel like you're just a little bit timid on doing, but you feel like you might gain something from, consider it again and maybe try it. So just small caveat. Yeah, we're gonna ask one more questions before we end this panel. So our next question is actually very relevant to like high school, college, and essays in applications. So what would be some good tips to develop a good relationship with teachers?
Be nice to them. That's like the most obvious thing, but teachers honestly do notice and do appreciate it. Like something I did was every time I like walked out of a teacher's classroom, I'd say something random like, "Thank you, have a great day." And it was like incredibly formulaic, which is kind of bad, but a lot of them noticed, and a lot of them really did appreciate that like I took the time to just acknowledge them once. Because it makes their day a lot better. They spend all day, dealing with cranky teenagers who don't want to do their homework. I'm one of them. It just happens sometimes, but just being nice to them in general is going to make a really big impact, even if you don't think it will.
I'd say find ways to build your relationship with that teacher outside of the classroom. Like, I don't know if Mr. Vo, I think he still teaches there, Mr. Vo. He was one of my letters of rec, so he knew me through the classroom, obviously, but we also did track. And then he was the one who helped me and encouraged me to apply to Simmer. And so he helped me with that as well. And then he helped me with like science fairs. So kind of spending more time outside of the classroom, asking questions about what the teacher likes as well. It's a two-way street. A relationship is a two-way street. You shouldn't be just trying to get something from the teacher. So yeah, like just be nice to them. Try to build a relationship as a normal person. It's not totally transactional, right?
Being honest helps. In addition to like getting your work done on time. Just like if there's something going on in your life and you think it's going to affect your schoolwork, definitely tell your teacher, because not only do they appreciate that, they know that, I mean, they're going to notice when something's up. If the quality of work changes, tell them like, hey, this is what's going on at home and I'm helping, I need help, I'm struggling. They're going to help you. So just be honest with them. Like, here's an example. I remember in college, my brother was having like my younger brother at home was having heart surgery. And I told my professors before, I'm like, hey, I just want to let you know what's going on. I'm sorry if I like get behind on my work. I'm just really worried with my family at home. I can't go home. We're stuck at school for COVID. And just like letting them know what's going on in your life. They appreciate that. And that kind of starts the relationship building. So just be honest with your teachers or professors, and they're always willing to help, even if they're scary. They're human too. They can relate to you.
Yeah. Since we only have 1 more minute left, we have One last question, super quick. Can you give one sentence of like a piece of advice that you would give to your high school self?
I would say, if I could go back and talk to my freshmen, all I would say to them is that you're going to be fine. Like it will all be okay in the end, no matter what happens. Things may not always seem like they're going to work out, but you know, there's so much more to life, and like things will work out in the end.
I would say to step out of my comfort zone and do new things I wouldn't have otherwise tried. Because if you don't do it, you never know. You know what might come out of it.
I'd say don't fear the prospect of failure, just be determined to succeed.
I'd say embrace uncertainty. I think I was so focused on doing things my way, a certain way, like 2 years from now, I'm going to do this. And if anything went wrong, I was always worried about it, but that added a lot of stress to my life. So embrace the uncertainty. Things are going to happen. Things won't always go your way, but you can always learn something from that.
Well, thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the Zoom call. Before we go, I just wanted to plug a couple things. So our Instagram is BHS Alumni Network. So go follow that if you haven't already. Also, our listserv is tinyurl.com/BHS alum listserv. So we send out all of our email updates through that. Also, on our Instagram, we have a link tree in our bio that has past webinar recordings, our Google Classroom, and tons of other resources. So definitely check that out. Am I missing? Oh, yes, one more thing. We have a webinar, not next week, but the week after, where people, Tommy and some of the other former Bruin to Bruin board members will be talking about their college application process during COVID and how some aspects have been changing. Oh, yeah, Shavian has all that on the screen, so feel free to take a screenshot or a picture of that. But yeah, thank you again so much for coming. I hope you learned a lot.
Before you leave, I sent the panelists emails. So if you have any further questions, feel free to email them. We will also send them in our following emails. And yeah, thank you for joining us today. We hope that this is helpful to you.